Hello and welcome to our town. Today we have something very special for you today. We're over here at Biddeford Pool and we're going to go visit Wood Island Lighthouse. And today I have two special guests. To my left is Mr. Brad Coop, who is the chair of Friends of Wood Island Lighthouse. And to his left is Sherry Poftak, who is the historian chair of the Friends of Wood Island Lighthouse. So, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit about the lighthouse, how it's your organization. How many years have you been doing it, and so forth? So go ahead.
Well, I'll start. We formed the Friends of Wood Island Lighthouse in 2003, April, as a result of a request from the Coast Guard, actually sent to the city. Was there any group that was interested in becoming the caretaker and restorer of Wood Island Lighthouse? And the mayor at the time contacted the Biddeford Pool Land Trust and said, "Was anybody there?" I happened to be on the land trust, and I said, "Sure, we'd be very interested in exploring the possibility." It had been explored, as a matter of fact, in prior times, but always the worries of undertaking such a big exercise, the possibility that there might be environmental issues and so on, had deterred the people of the community before. We had the good luck to know of the American Lighthouse Foundation, which does lighthouses all over New England, and we felt a certain confidence that if we could align ourselves with them, that we would then be in a position to take this on. A small handful of us, 3 or 4 or 5, founded the group and had a general meeting and got to work. That was 9 years ago.
9 years ago?
Yep,
Wow.
2003.
And how long was the lighthouse abandoned at the time?
Since 1986.
1986.
But the Coast Guard came in and they rehabbed it in 1994, a good rehab, and that was because at that time they knew that they were going to turn over to new keepers, and namely the public, who would take care of the lighthouses in the future.
Right.
Well, so we had several challenges to meet, and the first was, as you know, it's an island.
Oh yeah.
And you've got to get there.
Transportation's the key.
Transportation is and remains the key. The result of a very sophisticated exploration by our members, some of whom know boats better than I do, was to look for a boat that could land on the beach here without a dock and land on the ramp out there and still be able to offload not only people, but because we were going to do some restoration, to offload material that would be necessary to the restoration. And one of our vice chairs, Sean Murphy, who is sort of the leader of our boat captains, is the fellow who worked with a boat company to design the boat, and we then had to raise the money. And the next year we had this very special 24-foot aluminum landing craft style boat.
From that's like almost like a World War II type boat.
Exactly right.
It is indeed.
Is that right?
And our guests can just walk on and walk off. They don't have to climb over anything. The boat is very stable when it's beached, and for that same reason, the construction effort that has been undertaken, first in the restoration of the tower in 2010, wasn't it? And now with the restoration of the keeper's house, our contractors have called upon us for assistance where we could provide it. And it's been, particularly on the house restoration, the workhorse of that operation.
How many rooms in that house up there?
Well, it's 3 bedrooms upstairs, a living room, and you might call it a dining room in most homes, but I think most Coast Guard people use it as an office. And then a kitchen, and then there's a long connector building to the tower, and there's something called a little vestibule beside the tower.
Now we're next to this bell here. Can you give me a brief history of the bell?
Yes, well this is a steel bell. It was cast, it says right on there, in Sheffield, England in 1872, and we believe that's because the churches were really booming in Europe at that time, so they were interested in having a bell made for their bell tower fast and cheap. So therefore, a lot of steel bells were cast. And I don't know how this one happened to get to the lighthouse, but it didn't work out well because steel just doesn't hold up in the salty air conditions. So it wasn't long before it was removed and a new, what they called bell metal bell, which probably was bronze, was put in there. And this bell then sat next to the fog bell tower for a while. And just last year we have a picture that someone found in their closet that has a picture of the new bell in the fog bell tower and the old bell, this one, sitting there. Then at some point somebody dug a big hole out there, turned this bell upside down and put it in the ground and planted flowers in it. And it sat that way for many, many years. And then keeper Edward Frank and his wife Eloise saw that and said, my goodness, that's a bell. We want to remove that and make it sit upright like a bell should. So they did that, but it was quite close to the edge, kept getting erosion. And Jerry Murray was a keeper. He thought the thing was going to go into the sea, so he arranged to bring it to Biddeford Pool. That's how it's here.
That's people, you talk about pictures and old pictures and things like that. People, you're lucky that you are finding these old pictures and restoration things, because a lot of people would throw them away.
Yep.
So, Brad, keep.
Well, I would pick up on that and say, the lighthouse is a window into the past.
Yeah.
Its aid to navigation is greatly reduced with all the modern technologies. And so the Coast Guard is looking to private groups like ours to take over and restore them. And eventually, under a federal statute, if the Coast Guard declares it excess, it can be turned over to private nonprofits like ourselves. And we hope someday that will happen. But it is the case that I look at this lighthouse as one of Biddeford's treasures. It's a historic treasure.
It is.
It is one that has suffered neglect, except to the extent that the Coast Guard did what Sherry described in 1994. But literally, when we went out there, it was on the verge of just falling apart, and so we got started.
A few years back, I don't know, it must have been about 10 years ago, before you people started this, my friend had taken me up and around that island, and I was amazed by it because it was all abandoned. It was all boarded up. I was really, but it was unbelievable. And look at the lighthouse. And I was reading some books that I had prior to coming here, that I saw the ship. Look at the shipwrecks that were around there. How many people it saved. I can't believe. And there's another thing too. I was looking at in Biddeford in the 1800s. They had big 3-story high ships full of people. They put them it was about 300 people, and they used to bring them up the river, up this way, up and around the island and everything. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's good to have a reminder of the past, I think, because you do forget. And now with so much being virtual, I'm very thrilled to have a real experience, especially for the children, where they actually get on a boat, go to an island, and so forth. And Maine has 63 lighthouses, and there are only 2 island lighthouses that have scheduled tours, and you can actually go in them. So it's very, very limited.
This is one of them.
Burnt Island and Booth Bay Harbor.
Booth Bay Harbor.
It's Fish and Wildlife take care of that one, and they have a wonderful tour. But that's it. So the possibilities for having this experience are very limited, and I hope there's more come on in the future. But so we're very happy.
There's so much history, and to spread it out to the next generations, it's unbelievable. What you people are doing.
Our mission is really to spread the awareness of this lighthouse throughout the Saco Bay area, from Trout's Neck to Biddeford Pool and Old Orchard and all in between. And we're seeing people coming from all over the country, as a matter of fact, because they're vacationing here. But it is more gratifying to me to see the people from the town suddenly identifying with what is a piece of their heritage.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. How many islands there surrounds this around Wood Island? How many islands is there altogether?
Well, in Saco Bay, there, if you count Little Raspberry Island, if you count Stratton's Islands as 3 islands, there are 9. Richmond being in the north near Cape Elizabeth, which is the northern marker of the Saco Bay, it is the largest. And then Stratton's Islands would probably be second, and then Wood Island would be next. And we do have a shipwreck map that shows you where the shipwrecks did happen even though the lighthouse was working, and that there was mostly because of equipment failure. Anchor chains broke, anchors just drifted in a heavy storm. So there were some shipwrecks, but I'm sure it saved many other shipwrecks in their lives.
We're going to take a short break and we'll go and look at that map, okay?
Okay.
We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Sherry and I are here and we're going to be looking at the map of where the boat wrecks have been happening over the number of years. And Sherry, explain to us where the wrecks were and so forth.
Well, this is a map of Saco Bay, and Wood Island is right here with that lighthouse marking the southern end of the bay all the way up to Cape Elizabeth up here where the two lights are. And their job was to prevent shipwrecks and to mark the Saco River and to also mark the little harbor that you'll be going through on your way to Wood Island, because that harbor is protected water and has been since the lighthouse was built in 1808. So why do we have so many little red dots which all say shipwrecks happened there? Notice that they're usually, the north wind comes down here in a big storm, and that's how they wreck on that side of these islands. And they usually, when you count them all up, they happen because of the failure of equipment or human error during large storms. However, 3 of them I know in 1872 wrecked right here side by side on Christmas Eve, and so perhaps the light wasn't right. Either it was out or the characteristics were off. And you'll learn about characteristics when you climb the tower. And so this is the whole picture of what lighthouses do. They tell ships, and of course 1800s, we're not talking about GPS powerboats, we're talking about schooners and ships under sail with no power. This is a type of area that they were trying to navigate because they were going to the Saco River and they were going to Portland. Yep.
So there, like you said, it was all along here. There's some up on the river.
Yes, these weren't really wrecks. This was the Willard and Clapp. They were tugboats, and it was an exceptionally low tide, and they keeled over too far, filled with water, and so therefore were sunk.
Because a lot of them, the barges did go right down to the city of Biddeford, because they hauled the coal barges and everything like that down there to the end by the river.
A lot of coal came
Right,
in.
and the tugboats, I was amazed by it when I was looking at the pictures. How we had good sized boats going through this river. Even like I was telling you a while ago about the passenger ships that narrowed the river and coming out here to Biddeford Pool.
Surprising, huh?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. There was they had a steamboat company that picked. There was a group of college-age children that came down the river, and it was called the Item, and they were going to do a nice moonlight cruise around Wood Island, and they were overloaded, top heavy, so the thing went over, and 2 women actually drowned on that trip. And it turned out that President Taft's ship was here. He wasn't here, but the ship was here, which was, I'm spacing the name right now, but it's a lifeboat, and captain came over and helped out.
There was 2 ladies, I believe, that...
The Nimrod, that's what it was.
Right, there was 2 ladies, I believe, that drowned there.
Drowned.
As I was reading an article on that, and it was right there.
That's right.
President Taft, because President Taft had visited Biddeford, right in the city of Biddeford. He was there, and so forth. It was the same time that he had come to visit Biddeford.
Right. His sister-in-law had a house in Biddeford Pool, so there was one time that he came here during his presidency.
Wow.
I think in 1912 it was.
We're going way back into history.
Yeah, long time ago. It's always fun to remember. We want to move forward too, and Brad and Karen will talk about the future of this lighthouse and how we're going to get there to a successful outcome.
Okay. We'll take a little break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're getting ready to go on the island right now at Wood Island Lighthouse, and Brad, you got some more, what can we discuss about it a bit more?
Well, we can talk a bit about what it is we're doing out there.
Okay.
We have been working to raise money to do the restoration. Now we're doing it. And the first thing we had to do was point up the tower and get it completely restored, the stonework completely restored inside and out. And then last summer, we really did the thing that we think makes an enormous difference. We completely stripped the exterior of the keeper's house and reclad it with new cedar shakes, but the most essential and beautiful thing is that we restored a porch that had been on the lighthouse in 1906 It had been enclosed at some point thereafter, and if you have old pictures of it, you can see that it really was not a very attractive feature. Today, as you'll see when you get out there, we have restored the old porch, and that is consistent with our goal to take this back to 1906. That's when the current structure was created. It's a Dutch colonial kind of configuration. It used to be a one-story house, and when we stripped all the shingles off, you could see on the side of the house the old one-story house underneath with the new house on top, and we've now of course covered that back up. But this has been a very interesting experience. We've discovered a foundation out there that we didn't know existed.
Wow.
We're finding, as a result of a work party that just went out about 2 weeks ago, and we were taking away the veneer of the years, the faux paneling, things like that, stripping it back to 1906. We get back to the basic plaster,
Place it back to the roots.
back to the roots, and we discovered, and you'll see, baseboards with beautiful molding on them, chair rails that we had no idea were there, which all suggest a different era. That
I want to back off.
okay, we're backing off.
Okay,
and I'm
right now we're on the boat and we're getting ready to leave, and when we get off the boat we'll be talking some more about the Wood Island Lighthouse, okay?
Turn it over there and you can see where we're headed.
Yeah, we're heading right out there on that island, way out there where that lighthouse is, way out in the bay.
It's going to be a little bump.
Hello, and we're back here. Right now we're on Wood Island Lighthouse, and my guest right now is Karen Firebar, and she's the fundraising chairman of Friends for Wood Island Lighthouse. Good morning, Karen. How are you?
Good morning.
Good. Can you give us and she's going to be our tour guide for next 15 minutes, we hope 15-20 minutes.
Sure.
And can you explain to us, well, right now we're on the outside of the lighthouse here, the place where the people live. Can you give us a brief description of this?
Well, what you're seeing is the beautifully renovated porch that was enclosed and has now been taken back to the 1906 open porch look. A lot of the stone work, when they excavated around the house before construction, they found some of the original stones from the pillars, so those have been put back in place, as well as some of the new things. But we're very excited to give the look that was out here in 1906.
Right.
There's still work to be done. Being the fundraising chair, I'm always willing to accept checks from anyone. We have windows that need to be redone, and some of the original ones are restored. The other windows that perhaps weren't original may need to be restored so that they'll be like the original.
Now you're going back to the authenticity of the 1906 era?
1906. That was, we can't go back any farther because nothing else exists prior to that.
Right.
And this is probably the most beautiful architecture period, so we're thrilled to do this.
I'd like to tell our viewers that we did a half-a-mile walk from the time the boat landed to up here, and it's gorgeous out here. It's gorgeous. The Audubon Society is over here too with the bird, the wildlife.
Right.
It's a beautiful sanctuary. It's amazing. We cannot ask for a better day to do this.
Well, and the weather can determine whether it's going to be nice out here or not. Today's the perfect day to be out here.
Yeah. So you did this a couple of years.
This renovation, the keeper's house was renovated last year. That work was finished in the fall of last year.
Okay.
We did some tower renovation the year before. There continues to be some painting that needs to be done in the tower. We have a little bit of mold issue that needs to be dealt with. and painting for the lantern room needs to be repainted. So
There's this building, there's the L that's going to the lighthouse, and what else, is there any other buildings on the island besides this?
the one building that you'll see a little bit later is the oil house.
Okay.
And that's where fuel was stored when they started using flammable fuels for the lights, such as kerosene. They knew they should store it away from the structure. So there are not very many oil houses left to see, so that it's truly a historic piece.
Now the Coast Guard manned this house for how many years?
The last keeper left the house in 1986.
1986.
And then in 2003, Friends of Wood Island Light was formed, and I believe 2004 is when we raised the flag and opened up the lighthouse, and then began our tour shortly after that.
And how many? I already spoke to Brad. Brad, and he told me about the inside of the house. It has three bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. I don't know if we're going to film inside.
Well, we'll try.
We had a volunteer work crew come in a few weeks ago, and they stripped away anything that isn't architecturally relevant to the earlier period. So old paneling, things that didn't stick with this era. So some of the original plaster walls are there. And that's, again, another next big piece of our fundraising efforts will be to start working on the interior.
And I know your people work with donations. And how many times a week can the people in the community come up here to visit this, and where can they go?
We run tours in the summer, usually July and August, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Yep.
You can go to our website, www.woodislandlighthouse.org, and click on tours, and you can make your reservations online. There's also a number to call.
Great.
It is a tour that is great for everybody except those that have a difficult time walking, because it's a little bit, as you have experienced,
I've
you have to
experienced
be
this.
in
Good
shape, and definitely wear good walking shoes,
Yeah.
no flip-flops, open-toe shoes, that type of thing.
Because I know that Sherry told me, she said, make sure you don't wear no flip-flops.
You won't be allowed on the boat if you show up in improper footwear.
I know we had a wonderful ride coming over here across the bay. It's unbelievable. And can we, we're going to go inside and look around.
Okay.
And see if we can do some filming in there.
Well, we'll try to show you a little bit of our tower.
Yes, please. Okay, we'll be right back. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Okay, Karen, can you explain to me, right now we're on the top of the lighthouse here on Wood Island, and what a panoramic view of the ocean and the island. Can you explain to me now about the lighthouse here that's over here?
Well, we're standing by the light, and of course, all lighthouses have their own characteristics, so the mariners at sea know where they are when they check their maps. Wood Island's characteristics are that the light alternates green and white every 10 seconds. So if you're out there and you see that, you know where you are. There used to be a 4th order Fresnel lens from 1858 until about 1964. And that's kind of the romantic age of lighthouses, when they had those wonderful lenses, and the glass focused the light out so it could be seen 15 miles or so out to sea.
Right.
This isn't as beautiful, but it's probably more functional the way the technology has developed. It still focuses the light so it can be seen.
How fairly new is this?
You know, I don't remember when this was put in. It's a VRB 25. It's been here in quite a while. But this is the size of the light. There are several bulbs, and if you look into the lens, you can see them rotating around, and one goes out, they flip. So it's kind of amazing to see the size.
How many steps was it that we climbed up here?
We climbed 60 steps up to get to the floor of the lantern house, and you'd say it was worth the climb. But it's warm on a day like today, where it's a little bit like being in an oven.
It's almost like being in a sauna.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit warm up here.
Okay, well we're gonna go back downstairs, and we're gonna take a look around the house stairs, and we'll be right back. Right now, Karen, you and I are in the kitchen of the lightkeeper's house, which is in the process of being renovated. Can you explain to me a little bit about the kitchen over here?
Well, we have actually demoed a lot of the inside of the house, taken out anything that isn't historically correct, and the next step will be for the Maine Historic Preservation Society to take a look and see what we need to do to go about starting our planning to rebuild, and
See how much it's going to cost you and how much fundraising
right,
you're going to need for this
and
project.
because it's a historic building, we certainly have restrictions that we need to follow. So those will be identified, and then the architect will get involved. And
how about grant money? Is grant money available for these certain types of projects?
We have a grant writer that is helping us, and we have received a few small grants, but we certainly are working on the process of finding more grants.
That's great. Then this was the kitchen, and then Brad was telling you that the upstairs was the bedrooms, right?
There's a bathroom upstairs and bedrooms upstairs, and then access into the attic.
And you can tell this is going back way back into the turn of the century. You know the way look at the building.
We have
but
some
it's also
original,
too. It's been in disrepair for a good
back
number
to some
of years.
plaster walls, and so it's kind of exciting.
It's a big challenge doing this.
It's a big challenge.
It's a big challenge,
Yeah.
and the organization has been great to me and Brett here, and we're so grateful.
Well, we would encourage the local people that are interested to come and
Yeah.
see us.
Yeah.
And
now, how many days a week now?
it's 3 days a week.
3 days a week.
Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Okay.
If you have a large group, you can certainly contact our reservation person, and we sometimes will put together a tour specifically for
Right.
a group, and we do ask for donations on the return trip in the boat. They pass
Great,
the hat,
great.
and we are all volunteers. No one is.
Nobody's getting paid.
No
for
one's
this.
getting paid.
No
for
one's
any
getting
of
paid
this.
for this, right?
Correct.
But you people gotta days like today. It's so warm. I'm sweating.
I know.
But it's
warm.
so beautiful, and you got solar panels out there. Can you give me a quick thing about the solar panels?
The light is operated on solar panels, and the Coast Guard, of course, maintains all the navigational parts of the lighthouse. Friends of Wood Island Light are charged with maintaining the structure. So without groups such as ours, these beautiful buildings would cease to exist.
And did you have any more feedback from the Coast Guard in restoring this project? Did they give you any?
They do have some definites. We had some ideas for doing some things in the tower windows, and they have certainly a say, as well as the Maine Historic Preservation Society,
Right. Yeah.
on because we have to balance being historically correct as well as being safe out here on an island.
I believe I asked this question once, but how big is the island? And you share it with the National Audubon Society as well, right?
We do. I believe it's 8 acres.
8 acres.
And the Coast Guard, this part is, I believe, about 2 acres.
And when they used to bring in their food and supplies, that's the ramp we walked right up to the walkway. That's how they came over here.
The lighthouse keepers would have to travel half a mile to the boat ramp, launch their boat, row over to
Biddeford
land,
Pool, right?
pick up their supplies, and today the wet seas were calm and the winds are calm, but I know if you talk to some of the keepers, there have been times when they lost their packages into the ocean by a rogue wave, and then they have to haul it all back. So this was not a job
Right.
for the faint of heart.
Well, now, what's the closest lighthouse to this facility?
I don't know if Goat Island is closer. Probably Goat Island,
Goat Island?
which is down in Cape Porpoise,
Cape
and they have
Porpoise.
also undergone a major renovation, and they took Goat Island back to the 1950s, and it's beautifully redone.
Great. Yeah, and like I said, this is amazing. I mean, we could not ask for a better day doing this, and I'm very, very grateful again.
Well, we're
for you being
appreciative
here.
that you're out here. Thank you so much.
So what a workout for me.
Yes.
Well, Karen, I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be airing this shortly in the near future.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Roger Hurtubise, for Our Town. Until next time, thank you for watching.